Alan Stiles in for Mark Willard, and I know that Mark Willard, somewhere, wherever he is, coming back from his vacation, he's got his eyes on Bochy. That's me doing Willard doing Bochy. And not bad. Yeah, Grandy, I'll take a 3. It's a rare 3. Must be a Friday 3 from Grandy.
That's right.
But Boch is in town, Alan. How big of a moment is it for Giants fans to have Bochy back? And I think it is kind of a neat time for the Giants, who are good. But for me, the pressure is on Gabe Kapler more than anybody else with the Giants organization. The returning hero, winner of 3 World Series, comes to town, and Cap has got his team in a little bit of a tough spot after getting swept by the A's and after turtling up down in Anaheim.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's very hard for people to give someone their flowers without dragging somebody else, and that's a lot of what Gabe Kapler has seen. Gabe Kapler has been a very good coach as far as I have seen so far, right? Set the franchise record for wins. Obviously, he doesn't have a World Series yet, but it's still early. You have Bruce Bochy. He's a legend. He's a legend in the game, from the way that he acts to his demeanor to the fact that he pressed all the right buttons at the right times. He won those World Series, and Gabe Kapler will never be Bruce Bochy. But that doesn't mean he's not a good coach. That doesn't mean that the Giants can't win a World Series with Gabe Kapler. But in this specific instance, Dibs, what I'm interested in is a little later we'll talk about the Christmas game or the opening night with Phoenix and the Warriors, right? And how you kind of get up for your guy. You get up for your team. I talked about it with Jimmy G and the Raiders and feeling a little bit chippy that's our guy now. I'm wondering, I know baseball doesn't have the same intensity level as football or even basketball, but I am wondering if the Giants' actual players, they know the narrative around Gabe Kapler. No, everybody with social media now, everybody sees things, right? You talk about Brandon Crawford, and you'll see his wife pop up on Twitter and say some things.
Shout out Jalen.
Everybody sees things now. So I am wondering if maybe, and you're going to have the opener, I get it, but you are going to have the opener, then you're going to have 2 legit starters, so you got a good opportunity for the Giants. I'm wondering if the Giants, they also are going to have that little, I don't know if it's chip on your shoulder, but hey, Gabe Kapler's our guy, Skip is our guy, and we want to make sure that we show out for him because we love what Bruce Bochy did. A lot of us weren't here.
Well, none of them were here.
Yeah, besides Brandon Crawford.
That's the only one.
Yeah,
and I think if you go up and down the roster, I don't believe any of them were here, even in Bruce Bochy's final season. So to your point, do they cape for Cap?
Yes.
So to speak, and really try to pull together, knowing that the fan base won't be torn. But when Bruce Bochy comes out to exchange lineup cards tonight, or every time they show him in the dugout on Apple TV Plus, fans are going to be feeling some kind of way. There's a warmth for Bruce Bochy. He's one of the true legends in Giants baseball history, and the fact that he's now managing, and he's managing very well for a team that has a better record than the Giants do. And if you look at World Series odds, the Rangers have a better chance, according to the odds makers, of winning the World Series than the Giants do. So it's more than the feeling you would get if he were managing the A's, for example.
Well, exactly.
You'd have a little bit more sympathy for Boch.
Yes.
Now you've got a little bit of envy.
Well, but also at this point in Boch's career, he ain't getting out of bed to coach the A's. No disrespect whatsoever.
Right, but let's say if the Rangers were, 40-70,
yes,
you would feel differently about Bruce coming back. But the fact that he is managing and managing well, and he's got to be one of the favorites for Manager of the Year in the American League, and he comes in at a time where to say the Giants are reeling is unfair, but you have dropped 4 of 5.
Right, and this goes back to the conversation we had about Travis Kelce and George Kittle yesterday when you want to put them on different teams, because I don't know what Gabe Kapler, what the Rangers record looks like if Gabe Kapler is on the Rangers, or vice versa if you put Bruce Bochy back on the Giants, because like I said, he's not getting out of bed to coach the A's, because the Rangers, they went out and they spent that chicken. They go out to get Marcus Semien, they go out and get a lot of guys, so they had winning on their minds. They weren't just going to go ahead and say, all right, we're going to bring in Bruce Bochy, we're not going to do anything else. So he is coaching a very good roster, and I would argue a roster that is much better than the Giants roster.
Right, but the Giants roster it's kind of built to be this way, at least until they go out there and sign a big free agent. This is kind of what Gabe Kapler signed up for. And he came on board with Farhan Zaidi. He was handpicked by Farhan to manage this style. So this is the hand that Gabe was dealt, and it's the hand that he knew he was going to be dealt.
No, I know.
Maybe this is part of why Bruce Bochy wasn't going to work out long term, because he didn't maybe want to manage this style of ball, which is matchups. It's matchups to the extreme. And you mentioned the opener, and Scott Alexander going to get the ball tonight. Giants have lost their last 2 games in which they used an opener. So might that strategy be coming down, crashing to earth, or is that just an anomaly, a statistical anomaly?
Yeah, every other day it's something else. All I know is with an opener, you better put up runs. You can't go out and put up anything under than 3, and I'm being very nice saying 3. You really need more like 5 to 7 with an opener to feel safe. All I'm saying is, and I don't know what the Vegas odds were, the over-under for the Rangers to start the year, but you got Corey Seager. You got guys. That's all I'm saying. So Bruce Bochy comes back into town, and I just want fans to remember that things weren't great. The Giants weren't good, and sometimes things run in Bochy's
last year.
In Bochy's last year,
yeah.
Sometimes things just run its course. And if you think about where the Giants were, it was time for a fresh start on both sides. It's not as if Bochy went back into coaching immediately. It was a long run, right? And it was just time to take a break, take a reset. Like you said, there are a lot of different beliefs, if you will, between Bochy and Farhan, and it probably wouldn't have meshed very well. So sometimes it's just better to say, hey, thank you for the run. You go off and get it done. We just talked about Andy Reid, and the Eagles didn't even get a championship. That's just what it is, right? I mean, you can't keep a coach forever. And we have the conversations about Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, a little bit different in football because of the amount of games and things like that. But those conversations always come in and out. But Bochy, he had a good run. We'll forever love him, and his commercials with Buster Posey talking about tacos in the car. We'll love that forever, but it was time to move forward, regardless of whether the Rangers win the World Series this year and the Giants never win a World Series under Gabe Kapler and Farhan. It doesn't mean that wasn't the right move at that time. It was just time.
But it feels a little bit more painful when Bruce Bochy is, and he never said he was going to retire, but we all talked about, was Bochy forced out? And I said at the time, if Bochy doesn't ever take another job, then no, he wasn't forced out. Well, Bochy sits out a couple of years, and then boom, lands in Texas, and it feels at that time like, yeah, maybe he was forced out. And to your point, everything must come to an end. All good things must come to an end. In his last 3 years at the helm of the Giants, they were 58 games under 500. 64 and 98 in 2017, the year after they made the playoff run in 2016. Then they win 73 and 77 in back-to-back years, and that's where they were making the changes. Farhan was already in Bochy's last year, and they wanted to make a managerial switch, and so the rest is ongoing history. Does this also make us feel a certain way about Bob Myers? Just real quick, if Bob Myers, and we had the report yesterday that he's going to go work for ESPN and the NBA Countdown, if that happens, and then after a year, he goes and gets another GM job or a president of basketball ops somewhere else, does that make us feel differently about his departure from here?
I still don't think so.
Man,
I still don't think so, because
I actually think so.
Maybe it's a little bit different, but I feel that people need breaks and people need to feel that it's run its course. At that time, Bob Myers knew how strapped they were for cash, and there's a lot of juggling to go on when you sign those contracts, and they were in a very unique situation that a lot of teams aren't in, and maybe Bob Myers just felt like, I'm tired of doing the juggling act. You know, I'm tired of being in the circus and trying to, pay off Paul to pay Peter. I'm tired of doing that. So I don't look at it like that because of the cap situation with the Warriors, and maybe he just wanted a fresh start.
Yeah, perhaps. And if he sits out a year, and then if he goes on to be GM or president of basketball ops somewhere else next year, I'm definitely going to feel a little bit hurt. And not so much at Bob, because, do what you want, Bob, and live your life and have a career. But I would be a little bit more scornful toward Joe Lacob for, quote, forcing him out. And that's kind of how I feel about Bruce Bochy, who is coming back to town tonight as the Rangers take on the Giants.